Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you. And it's perfect for our conversation today. The talk title today is Never Waste a Good Crisis. I'll get to that in a minute. So I hope you've been enjoying this series that we're doing all the month of January on conscious evolution. It's been a little heavy on theory, more so than we normally do on a Sunday message. But if many of you are enjoying that, and I know we have dozens of people who have signed up for the free class, the online class that Cindy Wigglesworth, and it's self-paced. You can just do it at your own leisure. That it's available on our website, unityhouston.org, that goes deeper into the integral theory and spiral dynamics theory that we're using as sort of the lens to look at conscious evolution. But today it's going to be a little less of the theory. It's going to be a little bit more about the heart of how we move through the challenging times of our life. And I also want to do a little plug for what I'm doing next month. It's going to be a series on the four loves. It's the four Greek words used for love in the Bible. And I'm very excited. We'll also be celebrating Black History Month, all the month of February. And speaking of love, you know, the greatest love known to humankind is the love between the dad and the pet he never wanted. Do you know this? Oh, so here's a story from my own family. We were a dog family growing up. We had a little terrier that was our house dog, and then my dad had bird dogs. He was 100 pointers. And we did not have cats, and my dad didn't like cats, but there was a stray that I sort of started feeding the dry dog food and sort of took under my wing, and I named him Alex until he got pregnant. And he was kind of a plain tabby cat, so it really wasn't an Alexandra, so I named her Alice, which was kind of right. And my dad saw what I was doing, and he said, well, if you're going to feed that cat, I just want you to know, and then those kittens come, you're going to have to take care of it. And if that means putting them in a gunny sack and throwing them in the creek, that's what you have to do. I know that's shocking to many of you city people, but I'm a country person. Never would have done that. But anyway, the reason I was thinking about that is that this morning, it was a cold kind of morning. It was like that the morning the kittens were born. And at 5 a.m., I think it was maybe February in Oklahoma, below freezing, my dad was out there in the garage checking on those kittens and that mama cat. And he didn't want to give any of them away, and he kept 2 of the kittens. There were 5 kittens born. And it was just so interesting to see his worldview around cats. At least it changed. And that's really what I'm talking about today with this never waste a good crisis talk on how we grow and evolve, because we grow in different ways, right? We can grow through our intention and enjoy, and sometimes we grow through the unexpected and uninvited things that happen. This is not what I wanted, but we're given an opportunity to use it to grow. Spiral dynamics theory, created in part by Dr. Don Beck, he said this, that the problem is the architect of the solution. And that is the engine of conscious evolution, is that at each stage of human evolution and development, it's always a response to a former problem that we learn how to farm, we learn how to grow more food. Well, that also creates more problems as we're living in bigger cities, and that's more problems, so we need bigger solutions. And so our evolution is driven by the crisis. Isn't that great? Can we celebrate? Amen. The crises that come into our lives, they are opportunities for us to move forward and grow. And I love that idea and here's the other thing too. I know, remember my intention for this series is to comfort. I want to give context to what we're going through and say it's okay. We've been through things like this before as a race, as a species, as a people. We're going to be fine. Also to inspire next week I'm going to do the whole talk on the future that might be possible for us. And then also to challenge us. I know last week I challenged some people a little bit. But I want us to remember that this is how we grow. When we challenge our beliefs and our limitations, and then we become more than we thought we could be. That's the way evolution works. Not only does it work in conscious evolution through this theory, we can also see it in the biological evolution as well. And I know for many years, and in some churches still, it's a debate. How did this all come to be? Was it evolution or was it God? And my answer is a resounding yes. It's both. That what we perceive as from the single-celled organism that first had life on this planet to giraffes and blue whales and cypress trees, all of that came about naturally through the expression of the divine impulse for evolution. The mind of God at work over these long time scales. But it has, in many denominations, it's still a huge debate, or even they think they have the question settled. And a few years ago, it was pointed out that after we've been able to track the fossil record of many species, and the change happens very, very slowly. And so some of the anti-science religious people said there's not even time in your theory for evolution to have happened. In the short history of the earth, which is more than 6,000 years, 4.3 billion years, that there hasn't been time for life to evolve to this way. But science, here's the thing I think about science, it's just discovering more God in the visible and measurable world. And science found this thing that happened through the fossil record called punctuated equilibrium. And I love this. It says, you're right, for most of the time, change happens very, very slowly over millions of years. But at certain punctuated moments in a species' history, when the environment is stressed, what happens is the DNA throws out all kinds of mutations, really throwing anything it can at the problem, and some of them work. And so there are new species born in relatively short period of time. Amazing adaptations happen quickly in terms of, long time. That's called punctuated equilibrium. That even in the natural world, change and evolution and greater levels of freedom come from crisis. That's the way it works. From a spiritual perspective, too, what will always be on the other end of the crisis when we move through it is greater freedom and greater fulfillment. Don't we all want that? To live lives of greater freedom, to be who we are, to give our gifts as we are, and fulfillment that we know what we have contributed matters. So I'm super excited about the crisis that we currently face, all of them. I think they're really, really great. Because there's so many invitations to really experience the gifts of God and the greatness that we are through all of them, personally and collectively. I love the writer Elizabeth Gilbert. She had the big hit with Eat, Pray, Love, and she continues to just do what is right in her heart. She wrote a kind of a scandalous novel recently, and she's just writing and doing the things that are beautiful for her soul, and I have great admiration for her. Last year, about this time, I had heard a podcast. It was at the end of 2019 with Rob Bell, and she's talking to Rob, and she says, "Do you want to know my new definition for the word magic?" And he was like, "Yeah." It's this: what wants to happen next? What wants to happen next? Because there is an intelligence written into reality. And if we can hear it, feel it, be moved by it, we will sense where we are to go and what wants to happen next. And to the outside, it looks like magic. Like, how did he know to do that? He was listening. He was feeling for that native intelligence for growth, the impulsion for evolution. That's happening for all of us. I want to share one of my favorite Zen stories. I love the stories from Zen Buddhism. I've never used it to illustrate the point I will today, so that's my reason for making a rerun. But I love this story. There was a great samurai. He was renowned for his fierceness in battle and his ability to conquer and defeat all. And he had heard about a great teacher, a monk. And he thought, well, maybe I should conquer spiritual understanding too. And so he sought out this old, small man. And when he found him, he said, "Monk, I want you to teach me of spiritual things." And the monk looked at him and said, "What would I teach you?" "Well, teach me of heaven and hell." And the old monk snarled at him, "You brute! You ignorant, stupid man, why do you think that you could ever learn anything about spiritual things? You are only about violence and destruction. And the samurai was enraged, and he lost all control. He pulled the sword out of its sheath, and he was ready to strike down the old teacher. And the monk looked him square in the eyes and said, "That is hell." And the samurai was shocked back into his mind and his heart and his body. And he realized what had happened, that the rage that had poured through him indeed was hellish. And this simple, sweet old man had risked his own life to teach him this lesson. And he fell to his knees in gratitude. And his heart was broken open and he wept. And the old monk came over behind him and placed his hand on his shoulder and said, "That is heaven." So much of the hell that we're experiencing right now is because we're so rigidly stuck to our ideology, our perspective, our worldview, the thought constructs that we have in our mind about the way reality is supposed to work and what's supposed to be. And I know it's not you, it's the other side that's doing it, really. No, we're all doing it. And what the heaven that can be revealed is if we can soften, allow those limiting beliefs and thoughts to crumble and become open and available to life and to the innate wisdom of spirit. This is the kind of evolution that will move us to where we need to go. There's a term here I want to introduce, which I think I will also be using in the coming couple of weeks in this series. It's cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance. That our growth, our spiritual and mental and emotional evolution happens when the cognition, the way that we've understood something, our reality, it doesn't match what we're experiencing. We're finding a lot of it in white folks who are doing this racial healing work. They're waking up. That what they were told isn't the truth. And it's not comfortable. As a matter of fact, it's very uncomfortable when we experience cognitive dissonance. And many people, when they experience it, what they want to do is retreat. And they'll ignore reality, and they'll firm up the thought system. But if we will do just the opposite, if we will move forward, lean into our discomfort, into the dissonance, and let reality show us what's here, then we can form new systems of understanding that are greater, that include more. Remember, we talked about that last week too. The more we evolve upward in evolution, the wider our embrace, that we can hold more. So that's what we're trying to do with this as we move forward individually and collectively. But it's a dangerous thing, these moments where our realities come crumbling down around us. This is another teaching I've brought many times, but the Chinese character for the word crisis has two characters. They are danger and opportunity. Because there's no guarantee that when we're in one of these crises that we will make the right decisions and evolve and grow. Things may fall apart. Things may regress. But the opportunity is embedded within the crisis. It's there if we're willing. The other word I was playing around with when I was preparing for this message is emergency. The original meaning of the word emergency is just something emerging. Something's happening right now. Pay attention. It's happening. And you see like reporting of like the big storms, they'll say, well, the facts are emerging of what's going on. That's all that emergency is really meant to do, is just pay attention. But if we only come at it with our fixed belief of what anything could mean, we're going to miss what's really here. You see, reality is a beautiful teacher, but we got to listen. We've got to pay attention. And when your thought about what reality is doesn't